Hello, fellow human light beings. This is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard. Welcome back to the Thunder Wizard YouTube channel. Very simple message today based on what I've been experiencing, which is simply that the 5D shift is intensifying. We're heading towards April 8th, where there is going to be a complete solar eclipse, and that solar eclipse is going to have huge amounts of significance, and I can already feel what it's bringing upon us. My apologies, I almost stopped the streaming there for a second. All right, so I don't know if you're feeling what's happening or not. I'm definitely feeling it. And we are experiencing higher than normal. I mean, the energy is getting to the point where it's just getting very difficult to even try to think in a normal way. The world just isn't the same. So as you know, if you're new to the channel, most likely you're not, but if you are, I've been talking about the solar flash event, which we are currently experiencing. It's not something that's going to happen over in one instance, although there might be a final single event. Most likely there will be, but we are in the process of the shift. The shift is beginning. And if I can find my prism here, what is happening is that our third dimension is beginning to split off into different frequencies. And we are in the stage where, there it is. We are in the stage where we are feeling these frequencies. We're still technically in 3D, but where it says Ascension event, that's where we are now. And if you look inside that prism, you can see that what was normally just 3D frequency is beginning to split into multiple frequencies. And even though we're heading into an Ascension event, which will result in people living in peace with themselves, in harmony, in a much higher spiritual state, a state of amazing bliss. I can promise you that is coming because I've experienced it. I've been shown that part of it. Even though we're heading towards this incredibly blissful state, getting there in this, Ascension event experience inside the prism, while things are beginning to branch off into different frequencies, that is going to be challenging. I'm experiencing that. Perhaps you are also. What is coming to an end is the third dimension, as we know it. So the third dimension is not a place. It is a frequency. On our Earth, we are simultaneously in the same spot as other Earths, right here, right smack dab in the exact same spot where you are. There's a frequency of that part of Earth that is in a higher frequency, and there's one in a lower frequency. And each time you go up to a higher frequency, you move out of duality. You go further and further toward unity. So we need to understand what is happening, why some of us, like myself, why some of us might be having some intense feelings, might even have some painful feelings, uncomfortable feelings, both emotionally, psychologically, and energetically. And the reason for that is what this frequency is. So the third dimension, which this particular third dimension at least, this particular frequency of the third dimension is governed by self-devaluation and shame. That those feelings are literally what keep you here. Now, it doesn't mean that it wouldn't be possible for somebody in the third dimension to have a happy, blissful life. What it would mean is that you would be unable to truly identify with your complete divine infinite self. Because in order to do that, you would have to go beyond feeling limited. So if we take it on, the most healthy version of the third dimension, you would have somebody who was able to access their soul, able to access their desires, and they would go after their desires. They would have no memory of themselves before they incarnated here, and they would have difficulty imagining themselves after they left this earth, which is what we think is death, which doesn't exist. But that's how we see it. But really, death is really nothing more than unzipping this particular third dimensional virtual reality instrument. That's all this is. This physical body, the way it's set up, we have 5 senses, we have a brain, we have the nervous system, and those things give us an experience where we get stimuli from our surroundings, and our brain creates a reality. And so that's all this is. When you die, the only thing that happens is that you've just literally unzipped this and taken it off like a coat. And you end up expanding into your higher self. That's why you hear in every near-death experience, what ends up happening is people immediately feel free. They have peace. They look down on their physical body and they go, my God, that's not me. And they begin to expand into feeling love and unity. They're met usually immediately by higher dimensional beings or loved ones who have passed on, and love is given to them. They're taken to a place where they have a life review, and they look at the ways in which they limited themselves in this three-dimensional experience, and then oftentimes they're given a choice. You can go beyond this barrier, but if you go beyond that barrier, you can't come back. Or you can go back, and if you go back, here are the things that'll happen. And usually, of course, if they end up, coming back to life, obviously they chose to come back. But what I want you to focus on is that barrier that they can't go beyond. And I wouldn't have understood that before, but I do now. I've been beyond that barrier. I've been beyond that barrier many times over the past 2.5 years. And I understand why when people have near-death experiences, they're not, they can't go past that and come back. Because it becomes very difficult to fit into your three-dimensional skin when you've experienced who you are outside of this three-dimensional virtual reality video game. Again, it's impossible to interact with this world if you remember who you truly are. So we come back to this frequency. What holds this frequency together, as I've said, at the very least, is limitation. This is why you feel like you're a tiny little being. This is why you feel as though you are a victim of circumstances. This is why people believe in things like destiny, God's will. They don't believe that they have the power to actually determine exactly who they are and what they want to do. And that is one of the illusions of the third dimension. It keeps you here. The reason for that is because we come here to the third dimension so that we can experience duality and begin to, in that pressure cooker of duality, we are forced during an illusion of not knowing who we are, not knowing our power. We are given an opportunity to discover it. And when you discover your power, you overcome your challenges. You heal from your traumatic experiences. That's all there is to it. And that's why we come here. People who die horrible, pathetic, painful, miserable deaths are people who did not seize the opportunity to find their true strength and overcome their obstacles. Now, when you find your true strength, it will always be in some kind of higher dimensional connection, which we experience as spirituality. It'll be meditation. It'll be, this is why, the 12 steps include spirituality. When they first wrote the 12 steps, almost 100 years ago, they only had access to monotheist religions, Christianity and Judaism. That was it. You didn't have anything else in the United States. So they said, turn your will over to God as you understand God. And then that turned into a higher power. And so now if you practice the 12 steps, you find your own higher power. But that higher power is merely just higher dimensional energy. And that higher dimensional energy is what allows you to begin to access the parts of yourselves that can't fit into the third dimension. And so, but, ideally what the third dimension was designed is that you would have sort of access to what I call customer service. Through prayer and meditation, you could access and get some higher self-guidance, some intuitions, and you would then have some awareness to go, oh my God, I can do whatever I want. Oh my God, I'm loved. I don't have to live this way. I can stop doing this. I can start doing this. And you start doing things that were impossible for you. But, it's very filtered. You just get a little tiny sliver of this higher dimensional energy, which allows you to move forward in your life, because the third dimensional frequency, which is about limitation, if you were to experience, number one, if you were to experience yourself, your true self, you wouldn't fit, you'd disappear. You'd phase out of this third dimensional existence altogether. So normally you can't get a huge amount of higher dimensional energy because of that. And the other reason is it makes you go crazy, because you can't make sense of these two realities. The narrative we have here is a specific reality. I haven't even gotten into the narrative that comes from human beings. We're just talking about the narrative of being in the third dimension and you have a good life. But anyway, before we go any further, if you're new to the channel, please pay attention. Question your reality. Online classes and personal mentorship at thunderwizard.com. Bear in mind, if you're not new to the channel, if you haven't heard already, there's an important announcement concerning this channel. All practices, all meditations and all practices and all services are going to be moved to thunderwizard.com. So all of the meditations and the rituals and things like that, which you have had free access to for the last 10, 15 years that this channel has been here, all of those things are going to be moved to one central location, which is the thunderwizard.com website. And there you do have the subscription, the 90-day challenge. I have to make a video because most people have no idea how much stuff is really there. I'm not going to take the time to do that now, but you can go there and see all the different things that are available. But all of the stuff that's been free, some of them have already been moved over, as you can see in this now old screenshot from thunderwizard.com. If you click on shop, you can see the Qigong practices, and the new Huar Mantra Supercharging the Pineal Gland practice, those are available in the shop. So that is separate from the subscription site. So just letting you know that, and main reason for that, there's two main reasons, but the first one is that completely shocking to me, I actually got overdrawn not too long. I am still struggling. I am still struggling to pay rent and all that kind of stuff. I did not see that coming, and one of the main reasons is that I was just giving everything away. The second reason is that when you make things just free and accessible to everybody, the problem is nobody takes it seriously. Nobody values it. So even if they look at it and they press play, they're not going to value it and they won't do it. And that's a tragedy, because these practices I'm giving you have never been given to anybody in the history of the human race. Some of these things are brand new things coming from higher dimensional beings who are moving the needle further and further with energy practices and meditations. And so unfortunately, people won't do them unless they value them. And I had just a very horrific lesson of that with somebody who chose to stop working with me because everything was free and available and other people were charging money, and that person decided he wanted to go pay money to the other guy he didn't know anything about. And that hit me so hard in the face, like, oh my God, here I am making everything so available. And once again, I see if you do that, people don't appreciate it. And the problem with that is if I'm here to teach you, I'm here to give you things and for you to learn and get empowered. So I have to, do things in a way that functions to help you learn. So, but also it keeps the channel going. So if you've benefited from the channel, I encourage you to support the channel in whatever way works for you. Subscribing is the easiest way. You can unsubscribe whenever you want. Gives you a lot of options. You can start small and go big. And we've also got the Maoshan Shamanic Kung Fu with the wood element, which I've just uploaded. If you want that really hardcore stuff that will open up portals to higher dimensions, do that. All right, okay, so I've done business. Subscribe, like, and comment. Hit the bell button so you can be notified whenever I upload a video. And yeah, everything else. There are 2 free playlists which you will always have access to, and that is the interdimensional meditation. Those are guided meditations, and you'll always have free access to that. And the 12 steps to 5D, which is really probably far more important than you can imagine, which will help you to actually be able to shift in ways where you can overcome your challenges. If you're in pain, you're stuck, I recommend the 12 steps to 5D. All right, so this 5D shift is intensifying. And let's talk about now where probably more people are. So if you are aware that we live in a matrix, if you are aware that we live in a simulation, you are right. If you feel as though you have been enslaved, you are correct. Because in this third dimensional frequency of limitation, where you don't remember who you are and you're forced to constantly be thinking about survival, and in that stressed state of survival, you find a higher dimensional connection so that you can find out who you are and overcome your challenges. While that's what was normally meant for this third dimensional place, unfortunately, what has happened, which was not part of the plan for the third dimension, is that human beings have discovered tens of thousands of years ago. Human beings discovered how to tap into sciences which we now know of as energy work. People would call it witchcraft, shamanism. It doesn't matter. What we're talking about is the knowledge of using energy to manipulate this third dimensional reality. And what happened tens of thousands of years ago is that there were very powerful rulers who were also skilled in very powerful energy practices, and they learned how to control and manipulate people's minds. And that is the biggest issue. So that aspect of the third dimension, which holds you in this society, this world that we live in, that is a frequency in and of itself. So within the third dimensional frequency, there's an even lower one within that. You know, when you look at the prism here, where's my prism? When you, sorry, well, you remember the prism, right? I can't find it right now at the moment. No, is that it? Nope. So when you look at the prism, I forgot what I was saying. You look at the prism, and the within that you see different frequencies. So right now we have three frequencies that are coexisting, that are beginning to split apart. We have what people refer to as 5D. That is going to be a frequency where it's heaven on earth. People are going to be naturally connected. Their pineal is going to be switched on all the time. They will be connected to spirit, connected to each other. The vibration will be one of love, empathy, understanding, cooperation, kindness, gentleness, peace. There will be no such thing as violence. There will be no such thing as greed or manipulation. You won't be able to hide anything from anybody. You'll be able to see everybody. There'll be telepathic communications. You'll manifest things instantly. That's what we refer to as 5D. That frequency is starting to manifest here and now. As I said, I've experienced it. I've been experiencing over the past couple of days. Then there's a frequency below that, which is going to be a lot like 3D. It'll be a little bit better than this one. The elites will not be functioning. They won't have the power that they have now. There won't be the Dark Force global corporation. In fact, it's very likely in that version that there will be a complete collapse of the financial system, political system, all of that. So that's really all I know about that. And then there's going to be a third frequency, which will actually be below this one. And in that frequency, the elites win. They accomplish everything that they wanted to accomplish, and people will be treated like slaves, like cattle. And there will be a huge cataclysm where, you know, the majority of humans will be, majority of them will leave. They'll leave that version, but people will experience a lot of people being killed and maimed and destroyed and all that. So those are the three frequencies that we are experiencing. And these are all happening simultaneously. So the narrative, the one that's going to get pushed down, the one that people are beginning to fight against, that frequency is completely controlled by shame, self-devaluation and shame. And it's happening on levels that people aren't aware of. In fact, you have been told, as I have your whole life, that in order to be a good functioning person in society, you need to have a job, you need to be paying your taxes, you need to be part of, vote and be part of democracy and all of that. And I'm here to tell you that entire thing is a lie. It's a sham, it's a fraud. There's no such thing. Everything is based on money, and money is nothing more than the symbol that is used to devalue you so that you can be compliant. You know, just to give you an example, what's been coming up on my YouTube feed, interestingly enough, has been about homelessness. Having recently, totally strangely, experiencing myself becoming financially hit so hard that I was overdrawn. I'm like, how the hell am I going to pay my rent? That became something I started thinking about. Like, oh my God, what would happen if that happened to me? What would I do? It was very frightening. But coincidentally enough, these things are coming up in my feed. And what I've really come to find out is that, for example, one woman was sharing, how she ended up being homeless. And what's interesting is a lot of people, once they get homeless, they don't want to go back into the system. They don't want to rent an apartment. They don't want to buy a house. They don't want to get a job. They want to continue to, travel around and live in tents or live out of their car. And that's strange to me. I wouldn't want that. But when I think about it, it makes sense, because in this one case, this woman, how did you end up being homeless? And it turned out in the city that she lived in, there was, you end up with, judges and attorney generals and things like that who are corrupt. And of course, everybody in government, if you get anywhere in government, it's because you are enacting laws that allow the rich to continue to make money and stay rich. And so all it took for her was that somebody accused her of something that wasn't true. And she ended up going to jail, not because she was convicted of anything, but just because, there was somebody had accused her of something, and so they put her in jail for I don't know how long, until she had a hearing, and then in the hearing they found out she was innocent and let her free. By then she had lost her job, she'd lost her home, and she had no money and all of that. And what dawned on me is that, these kinds of things are going on all the time and you don't see it. And the people that are being targeted are the people who don't feed into the profits of the rich. And from their perspective, people talk about city governments and all that kind of stuff. And what's really going on is that all this stuff is, cities, governments, states are tools for very rich people to make more money. And so laws are designed to keep you in the workforce, which is really, it's really just a form of slavery. You're a slave. There's no difference. What is a slave? A slave is somebody who's can't move, can't go anywhere, and is forced to work. And the only way that they can survive to get food and shelter is if they work for the slave that owns them. And the work that they do makes more money for the slave owner. It doesn't matter where you go back to Roman times or where you go, back into, American slavery. It's the same thing. You have a work labor force that you have complete control over. You own them. And so instead of it being, right out in your face that there's a slave owner who owns you, and if you don't do what you're told, you'll get whipped and, beaten or killed, and that's okay, it's your property, you can do it. Instead, what ends up happening is you have slave owners who work in government. They tend to be judges. They'll be councilmen, mayors, representatives, congressmen, and their job is, in this craziness, is to give the false impression that you are the one in control of the system. And so you end up being taught to want to go and be a slave to some company or some corporation, and you think it's a badge of honor. People ask, when I went to college, it's much worse now, but when I went to college, I can remember I went to college and I studied things I wanted to study. I studied classics, classical languages, history, philosophy. just because that's what I wanted to study. And I had an experience there which was very opening to my mind. And, an undergraduate, and some guy, wherever we were, some guy said, "What's your major?" And I said, "Humanities Classics." And his response was, "What the hell are you going to do with that?" And I said, "Well, I don't understand. What's your major?" He says, "Business." So it was obvious what he was going to do with that. He was going to go make money. That's all he was interested in. Business. How do I go and make money? That's it. Like people who get a marketing degree. It's not like they're going and they're like, "I'm really interested in marketing this product that I think is amazing that everybody needs, and I'm going to go learn how I can market it." No, they go in to market anything. Any widget that any company is producing, they turn their mind into this, how can I help you sell your thing and make money? And they think that, I'm in marketing. I work on Wall Street. I deal with money. I work in the real estate market. And they've been hypnotized into believing that they're doing something of value. And their value comes from being and doing that. And all that we've created is a society of slaves who are willing to go and enslave themselves for social credit. And the social credit we have, we make fun of China with their social credit system. They're just out in the open with it. We have it. It's called money. And we have a social credit score. It's called your credit score. I get emails all the time like, your credit score went up, your credit score went down, and who the hell cares? And what the point of all that is that what you're never told, what you are, in fact, and bear in mind that the people who are running this know all of this. They know this. They know that money doesn't exist. They know it is a completely made up arbitrary concept. And they need for you to believe it. As long as you believe it, they will control you. We have people who off themselves because of how much money they do or don't have, or how much success they do or don't have. And it's a completely made up thing. So the people running it know that. We know that, that the Fed prints money when it wants more money, which means it doesn't exist. It's monopoly money, the whole thing. So what I'm slowly trying to get at is that the slave gets their value from what they produce for their slave owner. And that means that if they're not producing for their slave owner, they feel as though they don't deserve to exist. And in fact, that is exactly what happens. This is what's happening in the so-called housing crisis. We have people who are working full-time and they live in homeless camps. They're sleeping in their car while they're working full-time. And nobody should ever have to feel that their value to exist is dependent upon somebody else accepting you and throwing money at you because of you slaving away for them. The U.S. government considers me a business owner because I work for myself, and I get taxed twice. I get taxed just for having my own business. And then I get taxed for whatever money I earn. It's crazy. So nobody's thinking about how to help you. They're thinking about how can you give to me? Oh, you don't want to work for us? You don't want to work for the companies and the corporations. You want to work for yourself. Well, we're gonna charge you extra for that. You're gonna give us money so that you can have your own business. I mean, it's crazy. It's the mafia. There's no difference than being strong-armed by the mafia. It's the exact same thing. So this mentality is going away. This mentality is being destroyed. This mentality is a frequency. The feeling that you don't have any value in your own existence, which is, again, homeless people, they're unseen, they're forgotten, and the reason why they're unseen and forgotten is because they don't bring any value to the corporate money machine. Nobody cares if they live or die. If you try to go to governments when you're poor, you're going to get put in some place you don't want to be, or you're going to be left to rot somewhere. And there's a lot of people end up homeless because they have mental illnesses, they have emotional illnesses. There's many, of course, that are alcoholics and drug addicts. And some of them are just people who, for whatever reason, can't hold down a job. They have a learning disability, something like that. They're not alcoholics, they're not drug addicts, they're not criminals, they can't perform a function that the corporate money machine needs. Anyway, I could go on and on, but it's just, I've been really thinking about this and how sad this is. And this is what's going away. The idea that your value comes from what you do, not from who you are. That is going to be erased. And so you will have to face that. You will have to face within yourself those parts of you that are seeking to be accepted by the narrative. Is there a part of you that wants to be rich? It means that you don't believe that you deserve to exist, because you need money in order to be okay. And if you think you need money in order to survive, it's ironic that I'm saying this. If you think you need money to survive, it means you don't believe that the universe loves you and wants to provide for you. If you believe that you need to be successful, what is success? Success usually has to do with money. And another big one is owning a home. I see people. I mean, I'm 60 now, but I see people in their 30s and 40s, and that's usually when that really kicks in. When you get to be in your 30s and 40s, especially if you have a family, people start talking about owning a house, like it means something, like it brings value to them, like it brings them safety and security, which is absolutely ridiculous. Because what you end up doing to own a home is you become even more deeply enslaved to the banks. Mortgage, paying a mortgage. People put value on themselves if they pay a mortgage. Yeah, I own a home. You don't own anything. You don't own a thing unless you really do have enough money that you can buy it outright. And even then you still have to pay taxes on it. But no, nobody owns homes. The bank owns your home. So what ends up happening is you're going to the slave owners, just like in fiefdom back in the the 11 or 1200s. You're going to the castle owner, and you're saying and think about it. People think they have a house if they have half an acre. They can put their, I've got a big house. I got a half acre lot. I got a third of an acre, like that. It's nothing. It's pittance. It's absolutely nothing. And you go to the bank and you say to the bank, I need a house. And of course you don't have enough money to buy it because the whole thing is set up so that you can't afford to buy it. It's set up that way. So the bank says, I'll buy your house for you. You go, oh, thank you. And then the bank says, but you're going to have to give me, you're going to have to pay me back. And not only that, you're going to have to pay me back interest. And I'm going to charge you every month. And it'll take you years before you even pay off the interest that I'm going to charge. Again, just like the mafia. And just like the mafia, they'll say, and if you miss a payment, the house is mine. I'll take it back. I won't pay you back anything that you've paid me. I will take all of the money and the interest that you've given me, and I will have the house and I'll raise the value on it so that I can double my investment. Not only that, but I won't reimburse you for any of the upgrades or any of the repairs you've done on it. So you're going to live in that house. You're going to be responsible to pay property taxes. I'm not going to pay that, even though I own the house. And you're going to pay me huge interest, a VIG, on that. You'll never see that again. I'll let you live in the house as long as you pay me every month the VIG that I tell you to pay me. And you will have to be responsible to pay the taxes and to keep the upkeep on it and pay for all of the utilities, which, by the way, since I'm the bank, I also own the electric company and I own the water company. I own all that shit too. So you're going to be paying me all that stuff as well. And if you try and give yourself your own access to water and electricity, I'm going to find out about it and I'm going to put you in jail for it. We'll create laws that will make it impossible for you to bring your own utilities into your home. So while all that's going on, if you happen to lose your job, and oh, by the way, I own the company that you work for, which is one of the reasons I gave you the loan, because I'm the bank. So that company that you work for, I own that too. If we happen to fire you, you're still going to owe us. And if you can't make your payment, even if you've paid half or 2/3 or 3/4 of it, I'm going to take the whole fucking thing. I'm going to take the whole house. I'm going to take all the added value you've put into it. And I'm going to take all of the interest that I charged for it. You won't get a dime of that back. You will be homeless. I will make you homeless if that's how I decide. And being that I'm also running the government, I can decide that I want to put a road through there, or I want to put a train station through there, and then I can decide to just take your house away from you. And I'll buy it off of you, but I'll give you below market value for it. And, you'll still be screwed. The fact that you think you own that house, that's the funny part. But I'm going to let you think that. And I'm going to let you think that you have value. I'm going to let you think that you have safety and security. But more importantly, I'm going to give you social credit score, so that you can walk around and say, I'm a homeowner. I got safety and security. This is the game. And what's underneath all of that is that you do not have value simply because you exist. And your value, as I said, comes from what you do for others. If you're a model, your value is based on how you look. You're a musician. Your value is based on your popularity and how you look. You're a boxer. Your value is based on whether or not you can beat that guy up. If you can't beat him up, you don't have any value. We could go on and on and on. We make fun of sex workers. We'll call people horrible names like, sluts and whores. And the idea is that they throw themselves away and get their value off. But there's no difference. They're providing a service and they get their value from whatever it is, their looks, who knows what, whatever skills they have. It's no different from you. You work for Joe Schmo's widget company. Your value to them is based on one thing. Can you make me more money? If not, you have no value to me. This is the world that we live in. And it's going away. And so the people who don't make it to 5D, it's going to be very simple. The people who don't make it to 5D are people who aren't choosing to change their value system for themselves. If you want to go to 5D, you're going to have to realize that your value is based because you are a spiritual being and you exist. And this is why I keep telling you you're God, because that's what God is. God is nothing more than consciousness. That's why we worship God. Do you worship God because God has a big house? Well, if you believe in, that kind of God, there's nothing to him. He's just an energy field of consciousness. So it's not because he owns anything or has anything or does anything. Which is, by the way, one of the reasons why prayer doesn't work so good. Oh God, please give me this. Oh God, please give me that. And God's like, what are you talking about? I'm you. It's all yours if you want it. Manifest it. That's all God can really say to you is when you go, God, will you please give me money? God's going to go, okay, why don't you manifest it? I mean, look, here's my energy. I'll give it to you. You can have as much of me in you as you want. And I just manifest everything. Just manifest it. No, you don't understand. I'm a tiny little human. I don't have any value. My value is based on what I do. Oh, God, I serve you. God, I spend my whole life serving you. I'm a servant of God. It's like, I don't need that. That doesn't give you any more value to me. You have value to me because I'm connected to your essence. And that's why I love you. That's the only reason I love you. It's not because of anything you do. Not because of how righteous you are or what religion you have or because you accepted so-and-so as your savior. None of that means anything to me. So all that's going to go away. One of the things that was told to me by higher dimensional beings very clearly is that religion is going to be revealed as an inferior path. Because religion is about the third dimensional. It's about value. Salvation. Think about that for a moment. Salvation. Redemption. That's a better word. Christians use that word all the time. God has redeemed me. Well, what you do is you redeem something, you give value back to something that has no value. And what gives you value? Well, what this other guy did. This other guy died on the cross, and that gave me value. Well, that means both of you have no value. That means you don't have any value because somebody has to redeem you because you're worthless. And then that person who redeemed you has to get their value by taking on other people's supposed sins, their debts, which don't exist. So that person doesn't have any value either. So Jesus himself is teaching how to not have any value in yourself. The Garden of Gethsemane. Jesus, by the way, never existed, but that supposed incident where he's praying to his Father, and it's bothering him so much that he's sweating blood. The capillaries in his forehead are bursting, and blood is coming out through his pores because he doesn't want to be killed for no reason. He doesn't want to be killed and tortured. Can you please take this away from me? And of course, God says, no, I'm not going to take that away from you. Because, of course, Jehovah is nothing more than our ego. All of that is going away. So that's what's going to come out of this. I believe that's what's going to come out of this solar eclipse, is that this is going to come to the surface. I don't know, I'm willing to be wrong about all of this, but I believe that what's going to happen is you're going to see all of the stuff that's been hidden about what's been happening to the children, about human trafficking and other kinds of things I don't want to mention on YouTube. All this stuff is going to come to the surface, I believe. And just like with me, this past few days, being revealed how, people are devalued and treated so horribly by the systems that pretend to take care of them. That just created a lot of sadness in me, made me very sad. And made me feel very helpless because there was nothing I could do about it. So you'll have your own experience. And unfortunately, the more trauma you've endured, the more pain you will have to release. You'll have to let go of more pain. And the good news about that is that in order to be fully loved, which is the opposite of what we do here, which is your love is earned by what you do, which is not love, it's your approval, your acceptance, and it's temporary acceptance. Your temporary acceptance is based on what you do for me. That's this world. And it doesn't matter who you are. That's how, let's face it, that most marriages are like that. Most friendships are like that. That's just the fact of being in the third dimension. But in order to be fully loved and seen, we have to completely open our heart. It means we have to fully trust. We have to fully be available. I'm not going to use the word vulnerable because vulnerable is I heard somebody say very eloquently said that the word vulnerable implies that you are open for attack and that it will come. So it's not that you need to be vulnerable, it's that you need to be available. Emotionally available. So the people who don't make it to 5D will simply be people who are unwilling to make themselves emotionally available to receive the amount of unconditional love that will be coming your way. It's that simple. And everybody who is evil, those of you who think that there are evil people in the world, now there are people who do very, very harmful, horrifically harmful things. We could call their acts evil. But all of those actions are coming from somebody who absolutely believes that they have no value whatsoever. Those are the people who cause other people harm. And to the extent that you or I have caused people harm, it has come out of that same feeling of not being valuable because we exist. Mental illness, unless somebody's got something physically wrong with their brain. If we're talking about, narcissism, codependence, alcoholism, borderline personality disorder, name your mental illness. It is all based in shame. And shame is nothing more than not feeling valuable, not feeling worthy of love. And we call people little babies. Stop being such a baby. Well, why do we do that? Because babies are the only beings in our third dimension that we temporarily give the right to be loved simply because they exist and are having an experience. They cry, they laugh, and we let them have that, availability, that emotional innocence. We allow them to have that. But adults are not given that. If you are an adult and you are emotionally sensitive, you're emotionally available, and you cry, you laugh, you have innocence, people brand you as a weakling, they brand you as a baby. Stop being such a baby. Stop being such a wimp. So, one phrase from the New Testament is true, and that is, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. If by meek we mean emotionally available and innocent, those are the people who will make it. Because that's what it takes. The reason why extraterrestrials can be frightening when you experience them is because the level of love that they have for you, and seeing you and loving you unconditionally, and loving you simply because you exist, is traumatizing to the third dimensional mind, because your value comes from what you do. your social credit score. And when you're in the presence of somebody who truly loves you without any conditions, it expands you, and your 3D ego, which is stuck in this particular frequency, shatters. And it's very traumatic. You feel like you're losing your mind. Those of you who are doing interdimensional meditation and having intense experiences and you think you're losing your mind, you are. You're losing your 3D shame frequency, which is your entire world, your entire identity. Your literal world that you physically see and touch is manufactured in that frequency of devaluation. So when we talk about going to 5D, it's going to be in the exact same place where you are. You know, look around where you are. 5D will be the exact location at a higher frequency. And the only things that will be in that higher frequency are things that give love, which means there's going to be a lot of people that won't be there. You know, that explains a lot. You know, when I go to my 5D world, there are not a lot of people there. And when people who have in visions seen the lower dimensional world where they are, you know, it's worse than now. I mean, you're trapped, you're enslaved, you know, all of that. There's a lot less people. You know, this is where you know, people, even though religions got it wrong, you know, things seep into religions that are true, like the rapture. That is an intuition of what's really going to happen. Some people will disappear. They'll just disappear. But they really haven't disappeared. They're in the exact same spot they were. If there's two people standing right next to each other and one person disappears, it doesn't mean they disappeared. It means that they shifted to a higher dimension, and these guys can't see it. And these guys can't see the other guys. So unfortunately, you are responsible for that. Nobody can give that to you. The higher dimensional beings, when you do interdimensional meditation, these beings can break through and connect with you. But if you have the same experience I do, they can connect with you. You'll shift up, and you'll be in another place, and you'll have all this energy and this wow, and the Kundalini will be going, and the DMT will be flowing in your brain. You go to sleep, you wake up the next day, and you're like, what the hell was that? You're right back where you were. So they can't do it for you. They can only, you know, right now they're allowed to, the universe is allowing higher dimensional beings to poke holes into the third dimension, connect with you and make you feel it so that you can, you know, but you have to reach up and want to be there. You have to change yourself. Anyway, so that's what all the stuff is that I'm making available to you, the thunderwizard.com, all of those practices, the 90-day challenge, all of that stuff is designed to give you a discipline and an energy. So you need those two things. You need the energy, which will allow you to shift the way that you think and interact with yourself. And then you need the discipline. So that's why you do the practice every day. You do the meditation every day. Because just by the act of doing something every day, you train yourself to take actions that are contrary to your emotions and your impulses. What I'm saying is that when you are, as we're being hit with this higher dimensional energy, this solar flash event, which is just that, it's higher dimensional energy that's hitting us. What is happening is that our impulses are telling us to act out and be self-sabotaging, to act out of fear, to act out of anger, to act out of, you know, wanting to be accepted by the narrative, all of that. These are your impulses that you are going to have to contrary to. And the only thing that will give you the ability to act contrary to your impulses is discipline. And you're going to need that. You're going to need the discipline when you're hit with the love to not run, not run away from the love. You'll have to make the disciplined decision to stay in the love. All right, so having said that, there's not really a whole lot more for me to say. Again, if you're new to the channel, subscribe, like, and comment, hit the bell button. There's only 2 playlists that'll remain free. That's the Interdimensional Meditation, 12 Steps to 5D. I strongly recommend you do one thing from at least one of those every day. Subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong because you'll get access to all of the practices that will help you. This is at thunderwizard.com, and it also allows me to pay my bills so that I can survive. If you appreciate what I'm doing, if you've been following the channel and appreciating the channel, then you'll be doing yourself and me, you'll be doing me a favor if you support the channel. I don't ask for donations, I never have. I always offer services or practices. So anyway, subscribe for yourself, but also to help me stay here. And that's it. I think we're all done with that. I'm happy to take any questions if there are any. Let me take a look and see. Twisted Reality, if you have a question, if you write the word question, I know it's a question. Otherwise, there's a chance I'll scroll through it. So your question is, I watched a few of your stuff. Don't want to start off the wrong way, but how can you know those aliens aren't evil and fooling you? Well, you don't know. You're asking me how I know? So, Twisted Reality, do you have people in your life that you care about? You have family, friends, you have a pet, some being that you completely trust. Well, your question makes about as much sense as me saying to you, that dog is an animal. That dog that you say is your best friend, you have no way of knowing whether or not that dog is gonna attack you and eat you. How can you trust that animal? Because there are wild dogs out there that'll attack you and kill you. There's things like wolves and other animals. And if I say to you, you're crazy, this is your lunacy that you allow this wild animal all the time, and how can you trust that? You're going to say, I know this being. I have experience with this being. You'd say the same thing about your friends. Are there evil people in the world? How can you trust any human? Because I can give you examples of humans how can you trust any human? You'll say, well, this is my friend, this is my wife, this is my girlfriend, this is my friend. I know them. I trust them because I have an experience with them. So you're asking questions about things you don't have any experience in. First off, you're making conclusions about something you have no experience in. Obviously, because you don't know whether or not these extraterrestrials are evil or if they're lying to me. So you don't even know what it's like from when I say I go to higher dimensions, and I say, how do I know? Because I've been there. You know, if I ask you, have you ever you traveled somewhere, name the city. Let's say you traveled to London, and you say, yeah, I've been to London. And I go, how do I know that? You go, well, I have pictures. Well, you could fake those. Yeah, but I know I was there. I experienced it. Yeah, but how do you know? How do you know somebody just didn't build a bunch of sets? How do you know that you weren't knocked out on the plane and you woke up and you were where you were and they took you onto a movie set? I mean, I could come up with all kinds of things that I have no experience in. And I could keep asking you all these questions based on my lack of experience. So it's real simple. I have said from the beginning, and I will say it again, I don't want you to take my word for anything. And you should never take anybody's word for anything. But what that leaves is that you have to find out through your own experience. So I've got free interdimensional meditation, guided interdimensional meditations, where if you do it with an honest intent, you will connect with these beings. And you will find out for yourself whether or not they are evil or whether they are fooling you. I can't do that for you. I'm not Jesus. This is the whole Jesus thing. People say, oh my God, God hates me. God's throwing me into hell. And Jesus says, don't worry, I know him. He's my dad. I will do this really fucked up thing and let him kill me for you. And then it'll be all right. Then he'll like you. And you end up taking somebody else's, not only taking somebody else's word, you let somebody else's experience do it for you. So, I mean, forgive me, you say you don't want to start off the wrong way. I don't want to start off the wrong way, but forgive me, but what a weak question to ask. The answer is obvious. You won't know unless you choose to experience it. And if you choose not to experience it, you'll never know. And there's nothing I will ever be able to say that will give you the experience. You can choose to believe me or not believe me, but none of those things are experience. And that's exactly what I did. 2.5 years ago, I didn't believe aliens existed. And I saw this movie, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, and this guy was saying that, you know, if you just do this simple protocol, that aliens will come, and he's showing all these pictures of the aliens, and I didn't know if they were going to kill me or if they were going to abduct me. I didn't know. He said I had nothing to worry about, but I didn't know that. I had to find out for myself, and I did that not knowing what was going to happen. And this is life, my friend. If you're going to base your entire life on what other people tell you and other people's experiences before you choose to trust and believe, you know, you can't do that with everything. You have to go and live it yourself. So the short answer is, you don't know if there are any of those things. I do, because I've experienced them. You're going to have your own experience. But if you trust me, just like if you want to introduce me to your dog and I'm afraid of dogs and you say, don't worry, he loves people. And I say, how do you know that? And he says, because I've lived with him his whole life. He's never attacked anybody. He always goes up, watch, he's going to make friends with you. See, he's wagging his tail. He wants to be your friend. I have to trust you. If you want to experience these beings and you trust me, which I'm not saying you have to do, I can promise you that nothing harmful will come to you. Your reality might be completely destroyed. You might go through some trauma because your pain will come up because you're being loved. You might not understand what's happening to you, but those aren't bad things. Those are just outside of your comfort zone. But I guarantee you nothing will happen to you. Nothing evil has happened to anybody who's done CE5. Not one person. Not one person has come forward and said, I got abducted. Not one. So go give it a try and find out. Or not. It's completely up to you. It's the best way I can answer your question. Okay. Zinc says he's been enjoying my stuff. Good. I'm glad. Blah, blah, blah. Twisted Reality is talking with Jedi Black Knight, who's trying to help him understand there's a difference between human beings who pretend to be aliens and ETs who are higher dimensional beings. And he once again says, thanks for clarifying, but how does one know? And my answer is still the same. Go find out. Again, it's a horrible way to live. It's just, let me just tell you, the way you're living right now is a very ineffective strategy. Very ineffective. If you wait around for everybody else to tell you what to think and how to believe before you take action to experience things, you're going to just stay at home and watch the internet for the rest of your life, because that's what's going to happen. You know, you want to learn how to surf, you got to go out there every day and learn how to surf. Go and be part of life. What's coming from your questions is a fear, and the fear is coming from what I'm talking about, which is you don't believe that the universe loves you and wants to take care of you. That's not your fault. You've been hypnotized to believe that. You're going to have to choose to decide to trust the universe. Nobody can do that for you. And if you do not make the decision to trust the universe, the powers that be, know exactly how to manipulate your fear so that they can control you forever. So your strategy right now of asking everybody, how do I know? How do I know? You are begging the powers that be to manipulate and control you. Because what they're going to tell you is that you can't trust the ETs. You can't trust the universe. You have to follow this religion, or you have to get this, or you have to do all those things. Otherwise, you won't be a good person in society, and you will buy into it because your fear will say, yes, he's offering me this. It's a sales pitch. You know, the way sales work, I used to be a salesman. The way sales work is you create a problem that doesn't exist in the mind of your target. And you have a product they don't need, but you create a problem in their mind so that all of a sudden they think that they need your product. And then you solve that problem. And that's exactly what the narrative does. And you, my friend, are exactly what they want, because you are wanting somebody to convince you of something you don't know. And they'll go, don't worry, I know. Yeah, you're in big danger. Yeah, the ETs, man, they are big. But you know what? I got ET insurance. I'm the government. We have our own flying saucers, and I can protect you from them. But it's going to cost you. You're going to have to go and get this procedure done. And, you know, and you'll go, as you're wearing your mask everywhere, you're like, I'm safe, I'm protected. The fear is not serving you, my friend. And I don't mean this in any way other than to help you. So if you see something in me, you're watching my channel because you see something, there's something that you want, or you wouldn't be watching my channel. If you want what I have, you got to do what I do. And I've given you free things to do. It won't cost you a dime. Go do an interdimensional meditation and see what happens. Then you'll know. You won't have to ask anybody, how do you know? Because you'll have your own experience. All right, moving on. Jedi Black Knight question. Lately I've been doing the Maoshan 5 elements plus the quantum butterfly plus Huar moving posture plus grounding. Do you think this is a good sequence? I think that is such a kick-ass freaking sequence. I think that's extremely powerful. I'm glad you're grounding because you're absorbing a lot of energy. So in case people don't know what I'm talking about, the Maoshan 5 elements is this. Since we're on it, I'll play it for you. The Maoshan wood element moving shamanic kung fu form is the most powerful and advanced method I've ever used to tap directly into the power of pure spirit, of pure energy. These moving forms work with the 8 directions in ways that allow you to literally channel and summon higher dimensional energies. This particular package includes what you see here, which is called the Sifu hands. I also give you detailed footwork instruction, which connects to the energy centers at the bottom of the feet. And when you put the hand movements, the foot movements, and the alignment of the body together, you actually are able to channel the deity known as ether, or in Taoist understanding, wood. It's available now at thunderwizard.com. Go and click on the shop menu. You will see it there. The rest of the elements, metal, fire, water, and earth, will be coming soon. All right, so there's that. So that's what he's talking about, the wood set. By the way, the 5 element moving Maoshan sets, if you're not sure, because each one is a separate set and you should be doing all 5 of them, but if you're not sure, the wood set is the safest one to do by itself. In fact, you can do it by itself and you'll get the same benefit as Tai Chi or Qigong. It's because it's dealing straight with spirit, which is the ether, the wood element. And then if you like that and you realize that I love this, then move into the metal, fire, water, and earth. because all of the elements come from wood. So that's why wood is a safe one to do by itself. So I know it's a big thing to commit to all 5 elements, but try the first one, and what have you got to lose? And then you can decide to go on. So that's what he's talking about. The Maoshan, he's doing all 5 of them: wood, metal, fire, water, earth. The quantum butterfly is a moving, extremely powerful, high-level moving energy practice that can only be found here at the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. So you have to subscribe to that to get that. And then the Huar moving posture, that is part of the Huar mantra technique. So in that you get I explain to you what it is, and then you get the Huar mantra moving Qigong, and then you get the meditative technique. So you get all of those. So he's talking about that. He's doing the quantum butterfly, the Huar moving posture, plus grounding, which is something that I teach in the Celestial Qigong and the 5 elements. It's something that you do just to ground the energy, which is very important. And he's asking if that's a good sequence. And I think that's absolutely fabulous. That's just to let you know, that is something I would have done. If I was in my training phase and I wanted to get the most power, I would do that exact thing that you just mentioned. I didn't have access to some. You have access to things I didn't have access to. So you have a better workout than I did when I was doing my Maoshan training. So, yep. So Twisted Reality has the last question. In your experience, do they know more about you than you do? Maybe they can help heal humans they trust. Can be earned. Maybe they can help heal humans something. Help humans if their trust can be earned. Well, I mean, here's the question. Your experience with them. First off, everybody's experience is different. They're going to meet you where you are. So they're going to come to you at your level of openness to them, and they're going to be able to know what's going on with you. They'll know how to interact with you best. So, some people, they're going to be very gentle. Some people, they're going to, want to laugh and play. Other people, they're going to bring serious, stuff. Like with me, I'm a warrior. So they're going to come at me with crazy stuff they know that I want to get pushed past, limitations. And so they're going to give me more than I think I can handle. But if you're afraid, they're not going to push you beyond your fear. You might have some, but that's only because something's happening you don't understand. So I don't know how they're going to be with you, but do they know more about you? It feels as though they know more about you, but what you find out really quickly is that they start reminding you of who you are because they remember you. They've known you. You've been with them before you came here. You were with them. The beings that are flying around in higher dimensional ships that have different, they have different bodies, they put about as much emphasis on the body that they're walking around in as we do the clothes. I take this, I'm not attached to this. It's something I take on and take off. I don't, if somebody that I know comes in and they got a different shirt on, I'm not going to go, who the hell are you? I know who they are. They have a different colored shirt on. These beings remember when you lived on their planet, previous lifetimes. But more than that, they remember you in your spirit essence, and they remember that. So it's not that they know more about you than you know about yourself. It's that they remember who you were, and you've forgotten that. Because what will happen then is they will start telling you, you're far more than you think. You're this being and such, you're governing this galaxy, you're whatever it is they're going to tell you. They'll tell you stuff that'll absolutely blow your mind. And when you start doing the meditations and you start remembering who you are, then they'll come to you and they'll go, so who are you? They'll want to know who you've been in other lifetimes and other dimensions. There have been times when they've been looking at me like, as I'm having an experience, or I will tap in and I'll become something in my energetic self, and they'll be like, whoa. The first time that they came, I was meditating and I was doing, a Taoist meditation I teach on here, which is the 3 ones. And they were there and they were just like watching, and they were like going, wow, that's really cool. Like they wanted to learn how to do that meditation. But you're never going to know that if you don't reach out. So just, I said you're going to have to take actions that are contrary to your impulses and your feelings. So wanting to always know ahead of time what's going on is an impulse coming out of your fear. You're not going to know. You're just going to have to jump off the cliff and see what happens. That's just the way it's going to have to be. If I could do it for you, I would. But the Jesus thing, he already did it. It still didn't work. So, the Odin way is better. Odin says, you sacrifice yourself to yourself, and then you will have the runes. The runes will appear to you. So everybody has to do it themselves, unfortunately. All right. So Jedi Black Knight has some ideas about a book, which you can read if you want to look into that. Anyway, well, that's it. I don't see any other questions, so I guess we're good. Again, guys, 90-day challenge, thunderwizard.com. Help me to, while we still have to do this money thing. If you want me to keep coming on here and making these videos, the only way that's going to happen is if people subscribe and people, contribute to the channel. You know how to do that, thunderwizard.com. Go into the shop or subscribe, or both. And of course, liking and subscribing. If you want to help me get the message out, you can also go to my Facebook page, which is The Path of the Thunder Wizard on Facebook. And you can, there's a bunch of videos in my reels that are starting to go viral. You can share those with your Facebook friends. All that stuff is helpful. That's it. I got nothing else. Thank you so much, guys. And as always, first off, if I've done or said anything that's been hurtful or offensive to anybody, unfortunately I get emphatic, and that, some people get rubbed the wrong way. But just know that everything I do and everything I say is coming from my desire to do literally everything in my power to help you, and to help you be happy and to be prosperous and to feel peace and joy and love. And if I've, done that in a way that hasn't been helpful or that has been hurtful or offensive, just know that I'm doing my best. And as always, if the flash don't come, and or if I don't get beamed up to the Starship Enterprise, and or if I don't shift myself out of this third dimensional frequency, then I shall see you all very soon. Until then, please take very good care of yourselves. I love you all very much, and I look forward to our next interactions. Peace be upon you. Question your reality. Online classes and personal mentorship at thunderwizard.com.